Hi, this is Colin with Maker Farm. In this video we're going to show you how to assemble your X motor and your X idler and then put the whole X carriage together. To do that you're going to first start off with your X motor pieces. You can go ahead and grab them. What we want to do is grab our middle piece, and then we have two of these pieces that are the same. We'll grab both of those. We're going to put the little nut trap over by the holes for our linear bearings. So one will go on top. The next one will go on bottom. Make sure those nut traps align so that they're both the exact same way. Then what we can do is grab this piece here. This is the top. It's just going to go up there. And then this is our back piece. And all we do is just slot that whole assembly down in like that. Actually, first we need to put these in. You'll notice that there's one spot where there is no leg that goes underneath these bearings, so the spot with no leg goes right there. Then we can drop this down on top. It takes a little bit to get everything aligned. Once it does, then it'll look like that. Then we can take our last piece, get some of those little wood pieces out. The last piece, it just goes on top. Okay, then after that you're going to get some of your nuts and bolts. Basically we're going to use 4 to hold it together. We're going to use 3 of the 1-inch bolts and 1 that is a 1 5/8 inch bolt, and then of course our nuts for them also. Okay, actually we're going to put bearings in there too. It's probably a good thing to have. So before we put in our top piece, we're going to drop our bearings in. Okay. Now what we can do is take our 1 5/8 inch long bolt. That's going to go on this outer edge right here. That in. And before we get it tightened down all the way, we're going to put our smooth rods in there also. Because this bolt is going to clamp down on those smooth rods so that they don't move at all. So that'll go there. We're going to take our other bolt, an inch bolt. It's going to go at the far end over here. And then these other two, we're going to drop them right down in here. They're going to come through so that we can tighten them up on the other side with a nut. Okay, so I'm not going to put the nut on this one yet because we're going to get our smooth rods in just a minute and install those. So in a bit we will install that nut on there, and then we'll put our motor in also. But that's how you do the X motor. For the X idler, once again it's really easy. Just grab all of your wooden pieces for the X idler. Make sure if there's any spots that still need to be punched out, you do that. And you'll want to grab your wire kit for your ramps, electronics, and we're going to just pull out one of those end stops. We are going to mount that end stop first. And we're going to start out with our front plate. There's two little holes for our end stop. We just basically get a zip tie. And just install that zip tie like that. That's the first step that we're going to make. Okay, we're going to put that aside. We're going to get our middle piece, which is this one right here, and then you've got two identical pieces that look like this. The nut traps are going to go in front, closest to you. One's going to go on the bottom. One's going to go on the top. A lot like our X motor. We're going to take our back piece here and install our little pieces with a missing leg. Same thing, missing leg goes underneath our bearing. Then this will just slide down on top after you get everything aligned. Okay, and this is our top piece, which has the hole for our set screw that we're going to use to raise and lower to adjust our Z end stop. That just goes right up on the top. You'll notice that hole goes right above where your nut, where your Z-rods go. So you can put that there, install some linear bearings. Just like that, and then we can go ahead and take our top and get our top on there. Okay, so there's our Z idler. We're going to get some of our nuts and bolts. We're going to get two 1 5/8 inch bolts. Those are going to go through this back side here, as well as two nuts. Tighten those up in a bit. And those are also going to act for this as the stop for our smooth rods when we put those through. The next bit that we're going to get, we're going to get one of our metric 5mm rods, and we're going to get a nut for it also. It's a lot easier if you install this rod right now instead of waiting until later, because two of these bolts that we're going to put on are going to block this nut from coming out as well. So you can get that rod, put that nut on there, and then what we're going to do, we're going to slide this up from the bottom, which is where that switch is. And you're just going to thread it all the way through until the nut goes all the way up to the top. See the nut right there, and I'm going to push it in so it sits in there and doesn't move. Now we can take two more of our 1 5/8 bolts, and those are going to go in this other spot, these other two spots right there. Along with our nuts. That one, because of our switch, might be better to put it the other way. You can tighten those up. might have to loosen them again when we actually get our smooth rods to put those in there. Okay, but that's our X idler. And that's all you have to do for that. We're going to install our bearing here in just a minute, and that's when we get all of our X parts and we're going to put all of them together. Okay? So what we're going to do is going to grab your X carriage that we built earlier, our X motor and our X idler that we just barely built. We're also going to grab our X belt, and we've zip tied the ends, and from the end to the end, when it's zip tied, it needs to be 24 and 7/8 of an inch long. Okay, and then all we need to do is put them together. We're going to grab one of our small bearings. We're going to grab 2 of our 5mm washers. And we are also going to grab our M5 bolt and an M5 nut. Then we're going to get more bolts here. I believe these are 1 1/4 inches. And we're going to get our smooth rods. We're going to get our two of the 14-inch smooth rods. Okay. To start, we're going to install our belt. And the easiest way to do that, we're going to take one end of our belt, and it's going to get installed, and the bolt here is going to go through this loop for our belt, and that's going to secure it on one side. And we're going to drop a nut down in there, tighten up. We can tighten up one side. So we have it connected to one side so far, and the teeth are pointing up. So the teeth are on this side right here. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make a little loop like this, and that's how we're going to put it in, and then we're going to install our bearings. So we're going to get our large 5mm bolt, put one washer on top. We're going to get our bearing. It's going to go on top of that washer. And then on top of that bearing, we're going to put another washer. And then to tighten down down, it's nice and snug. You'll see that our bearing moves freely, and then our bearing rides right there on our belt. Okay, now our belt is going to go through our X carriage, back out the other side, like that. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put one end in, so that's probably easier with this out first. So we can make our loop first. You just put your belt in looped, then you can go ahead and get your motor, get your gear, and then get your little set screws. It's usually easier to put these set screws in first. check and get our gear aligned there. Make sure that lines up with where our belt's going to be. So basically the gear is almost flush with the top of that shaft. We can tighten this up. Go ahead and install our motor. We'll get some of those small M3 10mm bolts and drop those down in there and tighten up those. Let me grab my wrench. So you'll put all 4 in there. I'm just going to put 2 in there for right now. Okay, once you get that in there, we can grab our smooth rods. Basically, I'm going to put this one in my X carriage first. I'm going to put it in through one bearing. Take the other rod, put it in through the other bearing. Once those 2 rods touch, then we can bring it all the way through. That helps us so that we don't push out any of those little ball bearings in those linear bearings. So we can put the one there in the bottom. Now what we're going to do is we're going to loosen these up a little bit here. And then these rods are going to go on either side of that bearing that we installed. They are going to be a tight fit. And they're going to go all the way in until they sit and touch that bolt. Going through all the way there. Loosen these up. Okay, so now it's all the way in there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that our belts are straight. So this belt is coming out. What's going to happen is these rods are going to go in here, and this belt is going to get secured by another bolt and another nut. X carriage. And then we can go ahead and tighten this bolt back up. And then you can go ahead and tighten all, well, somewhat. I guess we'll leave some of them loose. And because as soon as we install our X assembly, onto our Z rods, then we'll know the proper distance of how far away to space the X motor and the X carriage from each other. And then at that point we can finish tightening these all up. Getting them set. And then when you're ready to tension the belt, you'll loosen up your 4 set screws here, and you'll actually pull your motor off to the one side and then tighten those back down. That'll actually tension your belt so that your belt is nice and tight and doesn't wiggle around. That is everything to build the X assembly. If you have any questions, make sure to go to makerfarm.com. We've got contact information there where you can get a hold of us if you have any questions. We can also chat via Google Chat. Thank you.